Everybody, wait a minute. Everybody, wait a minute. Well, everybody, wait a minute. everybody, wait a minute. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
So this to me is hilarious and one of the millions of reasons to continue to support BPM and all the work that we're trying to do, even if you're just watching the videos and circulating the videos and not able to support Patreon or as a channel member. Just in the last hour or so after doing my show live this morning, I get alerts that two separate videos, one, the one we did today, got a partial copyright block because UMG, the owners of Killer Mike's Talking Shit song, in which he expresses all of this bravado and black power and being, as he said, a real black man and all this other stuff, UMG is now taking whatever would have come through ads or monetization of today's video, and then blocked it in my grandfather's home of origin, Belarus. Oddly, that's the one place it got blocked, which I think is all this is hilarious. And then separately, the video we just did the other day covering the hearing for Mumia Abu-Jamal just got snatched up by the entertainment group that works with Math Hoffa's incredibly good My Expert Opinion podcast, because we used about a 30-second clip from his show where they were talking about how advertising drives the hip hop industry. So anyway, so just go check out the videos, watch them if you haven't already, circulate them. And if you have, thank you very much. And if you will in the future, thank you in advance. I just think the contradictions are themselves, just in this case, that evident. And like I said, reason 4080, while if you don't support BPM, you kind of being shady. Peace if you're willing to fight for it. Thanks again.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
What's up, fellas? Welcome again. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like right here, Black Power Media. Again, I'm Jared Ball, joined by our extended crew, Geechee Yaw and Brother Diallo. What's going on, fellas? Good morning. Welcome.
Morning.
Word to Kyrie Irving. Good morning.
Word to Kyrie Irving.
We getting censored every day, man. Shut up and dribble, yo.
I definitely want to get to some of that at least. But just very quickly, welcome to everybody in the Remixer audience, and shout out to UMG and Killer Mike and Math Hoffa's My Expert Opinion. I ended up taking the video down, cutting it up, reposting it so that we could earn what little we do get from it and not give them anything, and free the video in Belarus as well. And as Ricky put in the comments, shout out to Ricky Ryan, I didn't even think of this at the time. it was because, of course, I made reference to Belarus being the location where, not of course where my grandfather comes from, but of course where defiance took place, and Jews, in one of the rare occasions on film, were depicted in true life, depicting true life of Jews rebelling violently against Nazis in guerrilla warfare. Anyway, anyway, and by the way, my expert opinion in the most recent interview with Queen's Flip and Joe Budden, I see they're still struggling to replace they're literally talking about the cameraman they're replacing, and they need a little bit of help there, because everybody is all shaded out and everything. They need some light. They need a little bit of help. So I'm a big fan of the platform, so I hope they get that part straight. But anyway.
So you said Queen's Flip? He always is on there, or he's on there now?
No, he was just on this. They just did an interview together because it turns out that Space Ghost, the cameraman, who worked with Math Hoffa and just left with the two other brothers, had worked with Queen's Flip previously. And Queen's Flip was saying that he actually gave Space Ghost his name and said in his own moment of pettiness, tried to trademark the dude's name so that he couldn't, be as a payback for Space Ghost going out now and publicly talking ill of Queen's Flip. So it's just all this podcast drama. And my only real point is, aside from the silliness, is that once again, as soon as corporate America, as soon as P. Diddy fronting for white capital gets involved, drama in the podcast community starts to erupt. Because that's the latest, at least with Math Hoffa stuff. So, anyway, thank you, Quaker Anarchist. Yeah. And we have an update. Unfortunately, just like my man always says, it can get worse. So just as they said that Dan Snyder is talking about selling the Washington Commanders, the reports I wake up to this morning are that the top three candidates to purchase the team are Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Jay-Z. The latter two apparently are teaming up. Bezos and Jay-Z are actually apparently teaming up. So, welcome, Akeem. Thank you for joining. All
those drugs that Jay-Z supposedly sold in Baltimore and DC, I mean, it's only right that he go ahead and cop.
I mean, it's what can I say? It's not going to improve anything. It's not going to change anything, and it will just add to Jay-Z's strength and the ability to speak against any activism that comes up. Because this might be part of this. I thought this was actually part of what his arrangement was to speak out against Kaepernick, was to make room for more Black ownership, by which he meant himself. In connection with Bezos.
Minority ownership.
Diallo, are you self-censoring? I just want to make sure people don't
think
I'm
sick of ball chasers and minstrels. I'm freaking sick of ball chasers and minstrels. And at this point I blame the fans. I blame the fans. If we got to stop gassing these people up. We got to stop gassing these ball chasers and minstrels up, because a lot of, and then when the inevitable consequences of us gassing up these ball chasers and minstrels happen, I mean we causing these people to die. I think a lot of that's our fault. It's our fault, the fans or the groupies. So it's getting exhausting here, and I think it's all our fault. We have to blame ourselves. If we bring these people back down to earth, if we start to acknowledge these people's mortality, I don't know why we think a wicked jump shot or spitting lyrics should elevate anybody beyond the average human being. I don't know why these talents. It infers superhuman status on these people, and why we all go along with it. You know,
Yeah,
it's just like that whole WNBA thing, where I was talking about Brittany Griner makes over $200,000 a year, and people, working class people online, talk about she couldn't make enough money. That wasn't enough. She should get more money. Like, why? And instead of arguing WNBA players who make a decent middle class salary get more money, why don't we fight for the NBA players to get less money? You know, it's just I could say some things, but you accuse me of being controversial. So I could say some things. These goddamn ball chasers, they have way too much influence, and it's hurting them. It's hurting them. You know, it's hurting them.
Right on. So you know what? I mean, I was checking with Kamal, because I forgot Kamal was talking about joining us this morning, because speaking of what you get accused of, he and I both had some discussion about your stance on the Nation of Islam and what it means to activism. So we'll see if he shows up, or if he's able to join. I don't mean to suggest that he's not trying to show up, but I'm just saying if he's able to join us, we'll bring that point up, because that's the only thing that I recall.
Defend the nation. He better not show up in here.
It's not to defend the nation.
Oh,
it's about if the goal is to organize, it's about recognizing their relationship to the community and how to approach people who engage. Okay, so I'll wait to see. I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to wait to see if Kamal,
don't cultivate.
Okay. So I got a couple things I do want to get to before we get to the main topic, which is Molefi Asante's book, which co-authored with Nad Dove, Being Human Being, which caused a little bit of controversy here a little while ago. But and by the way, I did reach out to him again to invite him to join us, and admittedly, even though we disagree, and now having looked back at the book again, there's definitely points of disagreement, but I have to be honest and admit that given how things went here, I don't blame him for not coming. And I don't think he pays enough attention to the platform to understand the differences about what's going on here. So I'm not mad at him for not showing up, but I do want to talk a little bit about the book since I have read it, or at least, I would consider that myself to have read it at this point, to have read it and gone through it a couple times. There's a couple things I'd like to raise with you all. But before we get to that, there are a few more things, and then we'll table the NOI thing. We can always come back to that. There'll be plenty of time for that. First of all, okay, real quick, please do, everybody, support all the stuff happening on the platform. There's been a number of important drops lately. We got a number of contributions. The Asada Chants series has continued with the latest discussion about Black women in the Black Panther Party and art, and it's a very interesting discussion. I really appreciate what that series is doing, and I'm glad that they've wanted to partner with us. So please do support that. Kalanji's interviews with Dhoruba and Sylvia Beraldini, please go check those out. And I know the Dhoruba one is from some years ago, but that is some classic stuff. And it's the exact argument, again, that he brought in an interview with me in 2015 at the Real News Network that collapsed my relationship with them, because he was just, I think, too accurate in his analysis for insufficiently radically political media spaces. So please check that out. And of course, any Remix Morning Show you've missed. Sundiata's dropped in Real Talk with Ear Doctor lately. Ear Doctor's done stuff with Kim, his own Sundays. Search for Black Power dropped again with a very interesting discussion about Pan-Africanism and nationalism. So there's a lot of stuff happening on the platform. So please do check all that out and support it and share it and all that good stuff. Please continue to engage the Discord community, and shout out to all of them. I have sort of dropped out lately, admittedly, but I appreciate that they are maintaining a vibrant discussion and helping us along as well. Speaking of Dhoruba, I had a brief conversation with him, and I don't think I'm breaking any confidence here to share this part. He said something that I missed in the whole Kanye thing that I think is hilarious and selfishly brings me back to what I think is, if not the perfection of delivery, the accuracy in my attempt last year, and I'm probably gonna have to try to do this again this year to raise a critique around Kwanzaa versus socialism, or as others wanted me to put it, Ujamaa versus socialism, but it's really Kwanzaa versus socialism. And I say that to say that Dhoruba made the point that accidentally, and if you heard his discussion with Kalonji, you know he's very clear about how he feels about Karanga and Kwanzaa and all that. But he said accidentally Kanye clarified the situation when Kanye made that remark about wanting not to support Kwanzaa in favor of Hanukkah, because at least with Hanukkah, he would get some sort of financial engineering, I think is the phrase he used. And Dhoruba's point, satirically, a little ironically, a little bit here, was that this was the problem that he and to a lesser extent I had with the whole approach with the symbolism of Kwanzaa, absent politics and materialist, addressing specific to the materialist situation, redistribution, so on and so on and so on. So anyway, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving it the delivery and the humor that Dhoruba brought with it. But the point was that's what's really going on here. That by accident, Kanye exposed the reality that we have to move beyond symbolism and sort of an emptying of an appreciation for culture and address ourselves to the specifics of the material and political condition that we're in. All right. Do you all have any thoughts on that? I got a couple other things. I don't want to spend too much time, but I want to. There are a couple other things I want to get to. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I think even though he might say that, he's still moving in the spirit of what Kwanzaa is doing. Like, so when people that I've engaged are participating in Kwanzaa and they talk about group economics, it's them buying from each other some of the same products, and still the bucker is still getting all of the coins. So I mean, Kanye is still, even though he's saying that, he's still doing the same shit that.
Yeah, Kanye and Dhoruba wasn't saying, like, again, it's all jokes, but the point, and it's really like a way to get to the critique of Kwanzaa and all of that, and for Dhoruba, I think in particular Karanga's role in all of this. Although I would encourage people to check out. A lot of people, it was good to hear Karanga's point of view when he sat down with Sundiata a couple weeks ago, months ago. So people should go check that out on the platform as well. But yeah, I love that word too.
Yeah. If Kanye got a brand of shea butter coming out, just say it. If you're trying to sell some shea butter.
So the point, Kanye wasn't, and that's the thing, like it really was a broken clock is right twice a day type of thing. It was just an accident. He was trying to make another point, and Dhoruba just heard something else, and I'm glad he
Kanye thinking bigger than all of us. Kanye is y'all ain't heard about the ecosystem?
The who?
The ecosystem.
Yeah, you talking about the one that Young Thug was gonna give away some of his land that's confiscated right now by the state. But yeah, I heard about that shit.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He's starting his own city, almost like he did in IET, which he was gonna have his own city funded by white warlords and shit. So yeah,
Oh shit! My paperwork.
Hiram, by the way, good to see you. Peace to Hiram Rivera. Always, and good to have seen him live in person a couple weeks ago. It's always, I have to admit, it's always weird for me, you know, after all this virtual living, to still see people in person. It's like it's weird to see people like fully standing in front of it. It's like damn, you have a full body and legs and feet and whatnot. It's like anyway. But by the way, Hiram, more pressure coming on that sports show. So just heads up. Speaking of ball chasers. Anyway, speaking of ball chasers. So and I know I know, all due respect to Diallo's critique of not wanting to get into this issue. I got tagged on Twitter the other day because somebody was asking if I had seen Dave Zirin's latest story on Kyrie, and I had not. And then I read it and had a little response. And Dave, admittedly, Dave and I go way back. Like Dave, I remember appreciating Dave when I first saw his column when he was writing for a locally based Prince George's County newspaper. And I remember seeing that Marxist analysis in sports and was like, wow, I dig this. And shout out to Kamal in our first interview with Zirin back on my old radio show at WPFW. Shout out to WPFW and Katia Stitt. I defended Kamal's favorite white man because in Zirin's first book, he I think misinterprets Chomsky's approach to critiquing sports and its role in society. And so in our first interview, Dave and I had not a debate or argument, but a slight disagreement on that. And from there on, he and I have always had a friendly, but at times, we don't see eye to eye on certain things. But to his credit, Dave has always been supportive, and I got to keep it real. When the Myth of Buying Power came out, he interviewed me on the Nation platform, which I appreciated, even not just for the work, but I have to admit also because of the help it offers in terms of the politics of academia. But and whereas a lot of other folks have not still wanted to engage me on that. So shout out to him for that. But on this, we didn't, I didn't agree. So I'll share this here. And it goes back to the point I've been just trying to make about this whole thing. That, let's see. And people, I'll share the link if people want to see, or you can just go to the Nation to see what Dave actually said. But as I just said here, Dave is smart, but I do think the piece is very The Nation in its focus on Kyrie and Republicans. It goes way easy on liberals. And I reminded him, as he referenced Dr. King, that Dr. King and others were furious at liberals and pulled no punches on liberals. And I made, and then I wanted to go on to say that Jews treat Black people once in those positions. Wait, what did I say here? I said that his piece says almost nothing about how Jews actually treat Black people once in the positions that they end up in, and falsely equates or suggests some sort of balance between Black and Jewish community behavior toward one another. So, and I just said, I appreciate that. So Dave did respond that he didn't want to be soft on liberals. He acknowledged that I might be thinking more on that than he is. And that he's connecting this to some sort of accountability for celebrities in understanding the rise of the fascist right and their role in being complicit in the rise of the fascist right. So as I just said, I wasn't, Dave thought I might have been suggesting the Nation editors by saying the Nation that they had told him to write a certain way. And I wasn't saying that. I was just saying that, again, as we talk about here, these platforms aren't just looking for, they're not telling people what to write, but they're looking for people who will write what will be within their political lane. And Dave, by focusing on Republicans and somehow connecting Kyrie and focusing on Kyrie's anti-Semitic, or what's being said is Kyrie's anti-Semitism, as a problem, as the problem, connecting it to the right and making it about Republicans, and not, of course, acknowledging what the Democrats and the so-called liberals contribute to all of this, I think fails to accomplish the task of helping us advance in our analysis. And it just goes back into the routine of Black celebrity says something that Jews, or at least conservative elite Jews, consider to be anti-Semitic. The line gets cast, and that's the frame put on it, and then Black people either apologize and or get canceled, and then it's just rinse, wash, repeat, or whatever, right? And then we never get anywhere. There's no real substantive and honest discussion. So I don't read The Nation anymore, so I don't know. I don't remember if there's ever really been any honest and sustained discussion about Black-Jewish relationships. But again, I was arguing that Dave Zirin's piece does again the same thing, and by focusing on Republicans and blaming Kyrie, it just fits well within the nation's political frame, and we don't get anywhere. So now I do want to connect that. I'm going to invite you two and everybody else to respond, but I do want to quickly connect that to one other thing that I just saw, because on Status Coup, all right, Jordan Chariton at Status Coup just did a commentary, which for him is a rare one, if I'm not mistaken, on this issue, and I think did the same thing and got a lot of things wrong. So I kind of was like, I do look at them, and I'm not going to play any of it. I'm just going to let me just go through a couple things that I think that he got wrong. And again, it's the same thing. It's like easy pickings. Let's call the Black celebrity athlete anti-Semitic and score some points about how that's wrong and this and that. And again, there's no real advance. Now, again, Status Coup, I have to say, I know our sister Kim works with them a little bit now or whatever, but I went from a financial supporter of the channel to just a subscriber once they started teaming up with The Hill. I thought that was a bad look. And I thought that's going in the wrong political trajectory. I do appreciate Jordan's grassroots journalism, but I think he falls right back into that white liberal conservative Jewish analysis response that doesn't help us. So he says, so as I just made a question, I wrote a note here. Why is he starting his sports coverage with this? As he sort of acknowledges in this piece, like he doesn't talk about sports. So like, why is this where you're going to start talking about sports? I was wondering if this is just like clickbait stuff, like to get on the Kyrie clickbait thing. When has he ever discussed these issues or relationships between Black and Jews? I'm not aware of him ever covering these, having real discussions about this. So I find, his entrance into this frustrating now. He calls for Kyrie to be suspended, and equates Kyrie's comments to Donald Sterling, the former owner of the Clippers, and the racist comments he was caught on tape saying, and his so I said this is sort of my point, even that Dave was doing in his piece for The Nation. These false equations about the relationship between Black communities and Jews, as if there's some sort of equal power base here, as if there's some sort of equanimity here, and an equal exchange. Donald Sterling, not only was he being racist, like wildly racist. I'm not aware that Kyrie said is anything that overtly direct. Now I know what Kyrie is saying, and I get it, but in terms of the direct viciousness, I don't think they equate. And then of course Sterling, as a slumlord, engaged with the Black and poor community in a much more vicious, horrific, and institutional way than certainly Kyrie does. So that whole false balance is not helpful. Then, right to form, Jordan does exactly what I said in my original commentary on this issue. He starts going to the ADL and Greenblatt, the new CEO of the ADL, for reference, for statistics on on what the ADL does all the time. He shows Jordan shows a clip of the ADL website saying how there is a rise in anti-Semitism in this country, with a rise of incidents. I think a couple thousand incidents of a certain percentage rise. But as people have pointed out for a long time, the ADL and others have played with these numbers in a really funky way. We don't know to what extent those numbers count instances involving Black people. To do what Jordan and everybody keeps doing, the ADL in particular, by equating Black commentary here and there from celebrities with institutional, either state-sponsored hate, as in Nazi Germany, or institutional at the level of organizational effort, endeavor. They keep equating these comments with what actual Nazis and white supremacist groups are doing. So Jordan did the same thing. He started talking about what skinheads and Nazis and white folks are doing to Jews, and saying somehow that is being inspired by or emboldened or in resulting from even what Kyrie is saying, which is absurd, patently absurd. Then we don't know.
But is it
hold
though?
on, let me finish. I'm gonna let you get in there. You can respond if you want, but that is patently absurd to somehow suggest that Kyrie or any Black person's thoughts on Jews is related to the violence of whites against Jews, misses the point and walks everybody backwards, and that's what it keeps us in this same loop. And that's why I'm saying it's not helpful. Then there's the issue of the statistics themselves. What are these instances of anti-Semitism how are they being counted and calculated? What is actually being said to be done here? And how, in what world does any of that equate to what Black people continue to suffer in this country and around the world? They're not on par. It's not, I don't appreciate that approach. Then when Kyrie makes his point about, and Kyrie, again, my point is what Kyrie is saying is attacking Jews, European descended Jews, is a critique, a conservative reactionary critique, and is itself not helpful. But my point is, does not equate to what else is happening in the world. And my other point was, why is Kyrie continued and others, the whole point of why are Black people like Kyrie positioned to be given platforms to make political commentary in the first place? When Kyrie makes his comment about you can't say I'm anti-Semitic because I know my history, and I'm not anti-Semitic, on that basis. And then Jordan played a clip of him in his most recent press conference, just sort of responding to the questions where people are trying to get him to say, are you anti-Semitic or not? And he's saying, I am for all people, and I can't be an anti-Semitic because I know my history. Jordan just dismisses that, as most people do, and says, like, what is he talking about? What is it? So again, part of an honest discussion would have to include, where are Black people like Kyrie getting this approach, which comes from, of course, the basis, at least, that the Semitic grouping is a linguistic group that includes people far beyond European descended Jews and includes even many African groups in their Semitic languages. So I get it when people want to say I'm not anti-Semitic, it's because they're saying I'm not anti this entire linguistic group. They have a problem specifically with European descended Jews, who many want to discount as not even being real. I get that. But my point is, if we want to have a real discussion about why is Kyrie saying that, then Jordan and others would have to have a real discussion with people who understand African history and world history, and who understand the Black community, and who would want to then have a more honest discussion about, again, these choke points where Jews and Black people come into contact with one another, and why it's often on the basis of hostility, and why these antagonisms continue to exist. That would be more fruitful and helpful if we're honest and want to get to anything, beyond where we are now, as opposed to he's anti-Semitic, he won't admit it, and let's just move on. Meanwhile, you're citing ADL, you're referencing the ADL without any context or without any reference to their conservatism, their anti-Black history, and there are all kinds of problems and so on and so forth. It's just not helpful. It's just not helpful. Meanwhile, not even acknowledging, as Jordan did, while he's reading comments from the commissioner, Adam Silver, and others, even why are there Jews? Has the commissioner of the NBA been a Jew for so long, between Silver and his predecessor? And why are Jews involved in the administrative or the ownership level to the extent that they are? And there's even limits on that, which speaks to their relationship to white folks, which we never really get to either. But my point would be, we don't even get to that history of how, for instance, Jews played basketball more than Black people initially at one point in this country's history. And when they got sort of pushed out physically, they were able to ascend vis-a-vis, as I discussed elsewhere, their relationship to whiteness and the social economic structure into positions of ownership, which then again puts them in an antagonistic, hostile relationship to the Black labor force. But we don't ever get to that. We just want to stay with, let's just call him anti-Semitic and say, I don't even know what he's talking about when he says I can't be anti-Semitic. So when Jordan starts talking about the white folks with the tiki torches and the attacks in Charlottesville and all of that, Black people suffered those attacks as well. And there are no Black people in those groups who are also the targets of those. So when he plays the clip of the white folks saying Jews will not replace us, they're also talking about Black people, Jordan, as well. And no Black people are in that group. And Kyrie's commentary is not causing that group. If anything, it's the reactionary seepage from that group that has come to Kyrie, that is encouraged to be platformed by the very conservative media apparatus that would prefer to see all of this discussion held in the way that it's being held now and limited to that, so that we never get anywhere. But we're not, but he doesn't, anyway, he doesn't do that. So then Jordan just concludes that the only reason that Kyrie is being allowed to do this is because they don't want to get rid of him. He's not being suspended or punished like others have, because they don't want to upset Kevin Durant, who is defending Kyrie. And that was Jordan's grand conclusion. The video ends, and then we go right back to where we are. And that's why, as I'm sure Diallo is going to demonstrate right here, we're not advancing in this conversation. But go ahead, Diallo. Go ahead.
That was a jab, wasn't it?
That's right. That was a jab.
Damn. Go ahead, Diallo. That's
I don't take it that way. First of all, Black people have to understand white factions, white ethnicities, and white tribes. We always jumping in the middle of white folks bullshit, and we don't have any understanding of what white folks is all about. So oftentimes there are within the white horde, the white hegemony, the systems and institutions of global white domination, there are factions, tribes, and ethnicities. And those factions, tribes, and ethnicities of white people go way back before Black people had anything, before we ever gave them soap. They go way back. Before we ever taught them how to batter dip chicken instead of eating their ancestors' bone marrow. So first thing we have to understand is, when white folks had their, my grandma used to tell me, when I would go in Missouri, stay out of white folks' business and tend to your own. And what she meant by that, because when I say that, people are always like, well, white folks' business is our business. But what she meant was, when you see white folks having their entanglements, a lot of times you jump. It's like when the Japanese joined World War II, right? When the Japanese jumped into World War II, who got the nuke? Who got the nuke? You got all these white folks banging in one non-white country that was in there, a part of the Axis, and they had to eat the nuke. Germany didn't get the nuke. Italy didn't get the nuke. So that's what happens when these Black people jump both feet into white folks' business. I want to say first and above all, something we have to understand: Black people cannot be anti-Semitic, no more than we can be racist. But Black people can be liabilities to the companies that own them. And so these black people are not getting in trouble for being anti-Semitic. They're getting in trouble for allowing themselves to be owned by these multinational corporations that have certain vulnerabilities with all the powers that corporations have. NBA pro teams or record companies or media companies, with all the power that they have, they also have certain vulnerabilities and certain sensitivities. And so if you go and sign a contract with one of these multinational corporations and one of these corporate for-profit juggernauts, you have to understand that there are certain requirements. And if you become a liability to that branding, if you become a liability to their brand, they will have to sanction you. Kyrie is not being canceled. Cancellation is not real. But there are certain things that you're allowed to say, certain things you aren't allowed to say, and certain ways you are allowed to say the things you are allowed to say. And then it really frustrates me that we get behind these black people where you say, Kyrie's not causing skinheads and Nazis. All these black people, I always say, we have a long history, like you had alluded to, and I'll wrap it up with this, of blacks' relationship with Jews. And you see some black people will critique our relationship with this particular white tribe. We'll critique from the left, anti-Zionist, anti-capitalist, anti-racist. But many of these modern day, like Kanye and Kyrie, they are approaching this from the right. They're approaching this from the right. And their information come protocols of the learned elders of Zion. And that bullshit, Farrakhan, they come from a far right Islamic or far right Christian evangelical, back when Jews were called Christ killers and all that bullshit, and the insidious Jews run the world. They're coming from a far right perspective. They get their information from a far right perspective, and they regurgitate their information for. Now, if a white ball chaser, Brett Favre, I can't name one. I can't name one white dude. Is Dirkowitz or whatever, Dirk, is he still in the NBA?
No, he retired.
Dirk Nowitzki.
Give me a white ball chaser, a popular one, a starter.
I don't even know.
Man.
I don't watch enough
anymore. Can the white man get a hand up? We need some.
I know somebody in the chat will know. Honestly, I can't.
What's the white boy with a ball spot for the Lakers?
Somebody called Thomas.
Here we go. Luka Doncic. There we go. Thank you, David.
That's him.
Luka Doncic. Everybody says he's.
That don't sound like a real person. That sounds like somebody y'all made up.
No, he's very real, and he's messing up everybody's racial pride and dominance of sport. He's the white man's hope. He's the latest white hope. Is Brett Favre? Real quick, Sith Lord, thank you. And remember, just put a pin in the fact that you referenced Dr. Clark this morning. I'm gonna come back to that. That's a very just everybody put a pin in that Clark was referenced. Go ahead.
Does Brett Favre, is he still on the field? Does he still chase balls?
No. He's chasing poor people's money.
Let's say Luka went onto social media and posted "Birth of a Nation" by Cecil B. DeMille, the original "Birth of a Nation." He just threw that up on his social media without any commentary and went about his day. Okay. And then when people were like, "Yo, you posted Birth of a Nation, how dare you? Like, what the blood clot is going on?" And then all the white folks were like, "Well, Birth of a Nation is on YouTube for free. Birth of the Nation is shown in universities." Because when I went to the Brooklyn University, and they used to call, I'm not Brooklyn University. Let me stop trying to inflate myself. When I went to Brooklyn College, and I took a film interpretation class there, that we had to sit through Birth of a Nation.
Oh, because it's a classic film. You have to ignore the racism.
But here's the thing.
It's a legendary film.
I have a good friend and a good ally. He posted a video of Jordan Peterson. Just threw the video on, and I went off.
Jesus Christ.
Right? And I'm like, dude, and he was like, yeah, I don't like no Jordan Peterson. I'm like, yeah, but when you post something controversial, you have to give some type of commentary. You have to say, yo, I'm sharing this for this reason or that reason, If I post twerk cakes on a twerk video, people gonna be like, "Why you? That ain't really something that come from you. That ain't really your arena. Why
No,
you?"
that's the
posting that?"
disclaimer I have to put when I share Diallo videos. I
Right.
mean, I'm just sharing this. I mean, I'm just saying.
So
Don't.
Kyrie Irving is being sanctioned not because of the Jews run everything, not because he's anti-Semitic. He's being sanctioned because his behaviors have been interpreted as a potential threat to the profitability of the larger apparatus of his team in particular, and the NBA branding and the NBA promotions as a whole. And a white player would have gotten the same treatment if he had done something in the same vein. This is not anything for black people to invest or rally around at all. And we got real persecuted black people. We got real black people who are really trying to advance the interest and goals, make a just contribution make a positive contribution to the just aspirations of African people, things that we're striving for. And we got these goddamn ball chasers and minstrels sucking up all the air in the room. And I
just want to be clear that you're clear, because sometimes we talk past each other. So I just want to make sure you're clear that I'm not defending Kyrie. I am criticizing the critique. And I'm saying that the critique of Kyrie, the critique of Kanye is disingenuous and insufficient and framed in such a way that will lead us back to the same reactionary starting point. That's so I just want to be clear. I'm not saying rally around whoever. And I get that and I think on this show and on this platform, all we do is demonstrate and distinguish between those spokespeople and those to whom we should look to refer. So I just will be clear.
Well, you know, my transmission went out on my car 2 days ago. And now I had to dwell amongst the peasants. I'm out here skateboarding and catching public transit. And I'm among the people. And this Kyrie stuff is really blowing my mind. Like, brothers are ready to take it to the streets. And then I have to correct something you said, where you said them crackers with them tiki torches, Jews will not replace us. You said black people aren't among that group.
They're not. They're the target of that group.
The only far right groups that black people do not play, or that black men specifically are not members of those, are the ones that explicitly ban black participation. Every single allow me to say this. Every single far-right extremist organization that is receptive or open or tolerant to black male participation has black male participation. Promise Keepers, the Promise Keepers, Proud Boys. Name one that doesn't tolerate the presence of black participation, that lacks black participation. Even the ones that are overtly white nationalists, overtly openly racist. Name one that doesn't. The only way you're going to keep black folk from the Mormon church, the MAGA movement, even the Tea Party, and even the Confederate organizations, the right-wing militias, every single, the Ku Klux Klan and the Nazis, the only single extremist far-right overtly racist organizations that do not have black participants and black members are the ones that explicitly ban their participation.
You are the king of the straw argument. So I'm just going to leave it there. But because nobody to equate whatever
I ain't making
irrelevant,
no
ineffectual.
I didn't say that to equate it to anything. That stands on its own.
To suggest that any meager participation that you can't document or prove or show evidence of is somehow a sign that Kyrie or any black community is somehow connected to that nonsense, or is responsible for, or encouraging of, or somehow even slightly elevating is absurd on every level.
That,
But
why are you adding
go
all
ahead.
that on? Let's
People-
just deal with
people-
what I said. Let's just
I
deal
did.
with what I said.
It's a no, it's a total straw, and we need to move
It's
on.
not a
I don't
straw.
want to repeat it.
It is an
no.
extremely
If
necessary and
Diallo,
relevant
I want to
part
move
of the
on.
discussion.
If anybody watching this wants to hear what you said, go back and just play it again. I don't want you to repeat it, and I don't want to give you more time with that. You said it. They can go play it. They can just loop it. And
Yeah, but now you adding all this other stuff talking about what
I'm
did
not.
I equate
You
that to?
add the straw.
What did I equate that to?
Geechee, you got anything
This
you
is
want to
something.
say?
Listen, let me just say this,
No. You keep it. No. I asked Geechee if he had something he wanted to say because you wanted the equation, Diallo.
What equation?
You hold it up by even mentioning that. You suggest in this context that Kyrie, as you did earlier,
no, I ain't even. I'm off Kyrie. Okay. I just told you about
anybody. You to suggest black people are at all involved totally misrepresents what's going on here. And
I'm suggesting we don't have pictures of Farrakhan didn't invite Alex Jones to his mansion. We don't have images of Farrakhan embracing Alex Jones. What I'm saying is, I just said what I said ain't got nothing to do with Kyrie Irving. All I know about Kyrie Irving,
that's my point.
I heard about this dude. I don't know these dudes. I don't keep up with these dudes.
CD,
but what I do know
exactly backwards.
What I do know is that we have a problem in our community. I think black people do have an existence above and in particular away from. I don't always want to talk about black people and what we do from the context of what white folks do to us or what we do in the mix with white people. Black people, we have an issue amongst ourselves. And for the black people who are not open members of right-wing groups, there is a lot of what I call cultural contamination, a lot of far-right beliefs and values. And you can go down the list of what the far right wants for America: family values, to put the black man back at the head, end of abortion. There are a lot of far right, ultra conservative values, views, agendas, and policies that are resonating with the larger black community. Yeah. Ideology is very important. And I'm seeing the just like you think it's the white folks, the white community, the MAGA heads in rural white America is the only place that fascism and far right ideology is being planted.
But what
and growing.
I'm saying, but Diallo, what I'm saying is that, for lack of a better way, shit rolls downhill. And in this case, the conservatism that you're talking about is in the black community is coming from and being imposed on us by that and elements that support it. And what I'm saying is, and I want to come back, and I want to come back to where I started. And what is that when Jordan Chariton, when Dave Zirin, when whomever, and in this case, I would say you, Diallo, when you bring it back to ignore the limited conversation that is brought to these issues in these spaces, it doesn't allow us to move anywhere. That's what I'm trying to be clear on. So I'm not denying conservatism in the black community. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Of course it does. We exist as a platform to negate it. But I'm saying that the Tiki Torch crowd is not constituted and inspired by or encouraged by anything being said or done by the black community. It is the most reactionary and overt form of what is being encouraged by every element of this society's institutions, and the limited discussion put to them by liberals and supposed people on the left like Jordan and Dave. That's my point.
Okay.
Okay.
All that to say.
Yeah. Okay.
It disturbs me that we can't really see through what we a lot of times when we look at conflicts, anti-Semitism is very real. Jew baiting and all that is a European white tradition that white folks had entrenched in their culture and in their mythos long before black people were really maneuvering through, and white folks was fooling with us. That's some white shit. But unfortunately, like you said, their white shit has rolled down our hill. And I agree. we did a lot of what's happening is these people.
He's landed it and crashed it several times, Anthony. But go ahead.
I didn't see that comment. What did he say?
He's telling me to let you land the plane, and I'm saying you've landed it and crashed it repeatedly. That's why I'm like, I don't know why I'm like, and it's like, but go ahead, man. Go ahead.
A lot of prominent black people that have a position, a voice within our community, are doing nothing more than finding one white faction, one white tribe, one white value system or ideology, and mimicking it. They're mimicking our oppressors. And we're, as the masses, picking which of these white mimics, these black people who mimicking white folks who are selling us. And we're very clear on that when it comes to people trying to sell us capitalism. You know, we're very clear on that in some spaces, but in other spaces, I think we miss and misinterpret. At least can we tell the community, Kyrie Irving is not being punished for telling the truth. Kyrie Irving is not being punished for taking a stand as a black man. There's only one reason Kyrie Irving is being punished. It's because the people who he signed contracts with to obligate himself to, the organization and the brand which is on him, when you're branded with someone else's logo, have deemed him a threat to their profitability. That's the only thing that can get you in trouble. Huh?
They said he was unfit to be associated with the organization.
Right. The only thing that can get you in trouble as an individual at that level of fame, that where you broadcast across the world and you got these corporate logos and you getting these 7-figure contracts, the only thing that can get you in trouble is not being a scumbag. They got racists, they got anti-Semites, they got rapists and predators, everybody at that level. And the only thing that gets them quote unquote cancel culture is not real. Nobody's getting canceled. But the only thing that can get you sanctioned, fined, or fired is if you become a threat to the branding, because then you become a threat to the profitability. And if we looked at it from that point of view, and if we informed and educated our community from that perspective, then we can maybe start to say, well, where will we put this? Is this guy really a champion for any black cause? Is he really a voice for anything black? Or is this dude just another product, an agent of the systems and institutions of white hegemony?
We've heard what you said, and I just want to make sure everybody's clear, and you yourself, Diallo. I am not defending Kyrie, and I am not saying, I have not been part of this chorus you're talking about saying he's being punished for telling the truth. And in fact, I actually think it's more nuanced in terms of why he's being punished at all than what you've given it. But I've made that argument in my discussion. The original video, it's not about Ye, and a little bit in the answering criticism from the last one. So I'm not going to redo that here, but I'll just invite people to check that out if they actually want to hear my full argument uninterrupted as it was today. Despite people saying I interrupted Diallo, the opposite is true. Started from my initial, little commentary. I didn't even get to finish it. But so I just want to be clear that I'm not, my argument is, again, much more nuanced than defending Kyrie. So people can go check that out. And that's the straw part that I do find frustrating with you, Diallo. You're not hearing what I'm saying. You're just making your own point but as if almost in response to me, as if I'm saying what you think, what you're responding to. But it's all good. So anyway, go ahead, Geechee. Did you want to, you haven't said much. Go ahead.
Nah, but I think both of y'all, when y'all start to hear the disagreement, both of y'all jump in there and be cutting each other off. And then obviously when somebody's talking and you read the comments, it cuts us off too. So I think a couple times that's happening. Yeah. I know. That's your
damn right.
I'm sorry. Listen,
that's your thing.
Geechee Luther King. You need to take that y'all off and put Geechee Luther King on there. Pick a side.
Hey, listen,
Geechee Luther
King. I don't have to pick a side.
I love everybody.
I pick Kyrie's side. I'll stay on Kyrie, baby.
Look. Geechee Luther King trying to make peace. I don't want peace. I want problems.
We're almost perfect in terms of the timing here, but there's one more thing I wanted to bring up today that before we get to the Asante book. First of all, just very quickly, this is the same thing. I always have a problem with this. Melanie, with all due respect, this idea that if we have a criticism of something that somebody in public does publicly, that we have to somehow be reaching out and having some conversation is I just don't agree with that. So this idea that I have to, reach out to him and he would be, and then as a matter of fact, it's been maybe a year, even maybe 2 years ago, I have reached out to him in an attempt to build, and he never responded. So But the reality is, it doesn't matter. It's not even necessarily true that it matters that I have a criticism of him. In this case, I just do. So there it is. But okay.
Can I touch on one more thing before we leave this?
Go ahead, man.
We can't also overlook, because I don't know if I had status and money and fame like that, they never point out how the Jews are in bed with the far right anti-Semites. The JDL and the Israel's relationship with CPAC, the same political ideology and political factions that embrace the neo-Nazis and the anti-Semites are also the ones that are most pro-Israel. Trump is a very obvious anti-Semite. Historically, people know. He's went to Jewish organizations and getting up talking about, yeah, you people make the best deals, right? And look at his policy, look at his presidential administration. In 4 years, what he did for Israel, the nation of Israel. So again, when we're talking about white tribes, white factions, white ideologies, and white internal conflicts, and you look at Israel and the right-wing evangelicals and their prophecies and dispensations about what Israel's relevance to their psychotic religious ideology, there is so much entanglement there. We hear, or you even go to Riggs' book, Hitler's Jewish Soldiers. The Jewish community has always played footsies with the far right in power. And then they want to come and tell people who are not in positions of power and authority about, oh, you're anti-Semite, you're anti-Semite. They literally, you'd have Jewish leaders getting out of the bed with right-wing anti-Semites. They literally get out of the bed and put on a robe to walk out in front of a camera to talk about how some, low-level minstrel or ball chaser or public figure is an anti-Semite. And then they go get right back in the bed with the true power, racist, right-wing, anti-Semitic power. So that's another, if for the next time you got a couple of $1 million and some fame and you run afoul of the Jew, call Bro Diallo's anti-Semitism consultation services, and I'll give you some talking points for the low price of $19.99 that you can use to kick back, so you don't end up being like Ice Cube and virtually converting, and what's that other boy's name, Nick Cannon, who damn near converted to Judaism. I can get you through it. I'll walk you through it with a little bit of your dignity. I'll let you keep your pants up if you run afoul. Call my anti-Semitic.
So this is
it sounds like Kyrie has some mandatory training that his team is putting him through. So we'll see what happens after he read their sources. Or watch.
Y'all remember Ice Cube went to speak.
This is what I find to be so tremendously frustrating this morning, and I will not front. And why I said earlier, Diallo, that we talk past each other and that you don't do me the honor of paying attention to my actual argument or to what I've said, because what you just said is another version of what I laid out in my original commentary on this, and why I brought up earlier today, in reference specifically in the context of the ADL, my frustration with Jordan's specific reference to the ADL and condemning Kyrie, because it denies the ADL and the conservative history that, as you outlined accurately, Jews have played historically, that never gets honestly discussed, and it explains a lot of why there's all this hostility when they come into contact in this particular economy with Black people. So that's all I'm saying. Like if we actually, so that's it. So
it's not a competition.
Encourage you. I want to encourage you. It's not a it's
a cooperation.
No, the only time it falls into competition is what I'm saying. No, the competition, it's not competition. The disagreement is in not hearing one another. And that's my point. That's my point. And instead of hearing and responding to what I actually say, you just make your points. Anyway, but that's good. So that's good. So as I'm saying, you know, yeah, I like this. This is the hashtag we should start. Thank you, Quaker Anarchists. Start with my original statement. All right. So listen, there's one other thing that I did want to get to. By the way, my point is, aside from all of that, just quickly, Diallo, I agree with what you're saying. This is again part of my frustration with the whole thing. That's exactly it. That Jews themselves do not participate in encouraging public, honest discussion about their own history and engagement with the society and the rest of the world, and their engagement collectively, in this case, with Black people. And that's so when I see people on the left, nominally or whatever, like my man Dave Zirin or Jordan Chariton or whomever else, I find it incredibly frustrating that they're not adding and expanding the conversation either, and bringing us right back into these same cycles of nonsense. So, but the one other thing that I did want to get to this morning before we get to Asante's book, is that I was encouraged to check out the recent interview Noel Hanrahan did. Noel Hanrahan, legendary journalist with Prison Radio, chronicling Mumia's and other prisoners' commentaries for decades. She did a recent interview with Counterspin, with Janine Jackson at Counterspin, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, an outlet I at least used to be very supportive and engaged with, at least, you know, in terms of their content. Interviewed Janine on 2 occasions. Once, a little bit critical, didn't necessarily go well. I talk a little bit about that, and I Mix What I Like, a mixtape manifesto, free at imixwhatilike.org. And then more recently, for a little critical media literacy video mixtape that I did. But in this interview that Noel did after the hearing that we were all in attendance for last week, she did a very good job of outlining the details of the case, better than I certainly did. She knows it much more in terms of the details. She knew the names of the prosecutors, all that kind of stuff. So it's a very good interview for that purpose. But what I found very frustrating about the interview is that Noel she did something that she did in her initial statement that we talked a little bit about before the other day, that is reducing what is happening. And I don't really mean reducing it, but limiting an analysis of what's happening to Mumia to just broadly racism, which I think is insufficient, because that of course could be applied to just about everybody, all these Black and brown people dragged through this prison system and beyond. There's a particularity given Mumia's politics that was unfortunately not mentioned in that interview. I don't even think they used the phrase political prisoner in a discussion of Mumia, and just talked about him as if he's just, quote unquote, another Black man suffering racism in the prison industrial complex. I also did a little search. Admit it's not not fully scientific. The methodologies could be called into question. It's certainly limited. But I searched through Fair's and Counterspin's website and noticed that when you put in the search term political prisoner, Mumia comes up maybe a handful of times going back to 1990s. And I'm talking about literally a handful. Not a lot of routine coverage and discussion. And other than that, all the other political prisoners referenced are, or that are discussed in that, are maybe Julian Assange a couple times, or white folks sort of caught up in, they even had stories about people in the Irish-British struggle, but nothing about Mumia, I mean, beyond Mumia a handful of times over a 20-plus year period, by the way. And nothing about any of the other political prisoners associated with Mumia's struggle, even the white ones. So again, similar to what I'm even saying about Jordan and Dave and others in the white left media space, when it comes to these issues, Black-Jewish relationships, the Black community in general, political prisoners, there is a willingness to maybe go so far as Julian Assange, but not to go any farther beyond that. And even when they're talking about Mumia, they could somehow ignore, there was no reference to him being in the Black Panther Party. There was no reference to the politics of his journalism or or even the context of what would have had the police desiring to set him up in the first place. And again, no connection to other political. So I just was very frustrated by that, and again feel like it puts an overall limitation on the forms of support that people like Mumia and others with him should get. All right, go ahead, Diallo. I see you over there giggling. Go ahead, my man. Go ahead, get it in. Go ahead. I'm done.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on that. I think these are the issues, and these are the individuals that are worthy of our attention. And like I said, Black people, we always calling for Barabbas in these situations. We always call them to give us Barabbas, and we leave Mumias and all the others up on that cross, that fabled old rugged cross. So I'm with you when I sanction and stamp everything you just said. I'm with you. See, I'm agreeable
Right
at
on.
times.
There it is.
But I'm almost out of green tea, so I'm gonna be real ornery in a minute.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take that energy, and let's get you got something to say on that. Let's take that energy and get into being human being. We get let's take a quick if we're ready, let's take quick transition.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
So me getting halfway through this, I want to know first the fallout, because I'm not even clear on the fallout. That I don't think I read it yet or got through it yet. But the fallout that about this book was what happened.
Look, I don't even want to say this dude's name given all the nonsense he said about me publicly, but Self Promo said that one of the issues, and he did say that there were a few, but essentially the issue that we got caught up on was this issue of Asante now supporting the queer agenda, and that his new book is dragging Afrocentricity away from its origins in defense of African people in an African-centered context into this whole thing about queer theory. And for me, what was unfortunate about the falling out with this young brother, this unfortunate, self-promo chasing, I think, character is that privately he started after our exchange publicly, which I thought was respectful. We didn't agree, but I thought was respectful. He started sending me all these private messages, like trying to teach me about queer theory and trying to suggest to me that because I don't understand queer theory, I don't see what's happening here. And because I admitted I don't understand. I'm not a student of what he was saying is queer theory. So I'm not aware that there is this movement that's taking whatever. Whatever. So my point was, my response was, it was a little stern, I'm sure, in text or whatever, in chat. But I was saying, look, I don't need to be sent a handful of links, like link after link after link with, you telling me to look at this and read. Like, I don't need that when my only argument is if African people are queer, they are part of the African community and should be part of the Pan-African struggle. That was my only and still my only baseline. It is not that I have some fully advanced position on the LGBTQ community and their struggle, etc. It's not that whatever. It's just simply that if you're an African, I'm not interested in. I did say I don't feel some particular threat to the existence of Black people that homosexuality is supposed to present. I don't feel like we're on the precipice of not existing anymore, or that we couldn't exist anyway. So that was really the point. I was just like, so I don't need. I just was, and I said at the time I had not read the book. So I was saying, look, I haven't read the book. So I don't know, I'm just hearing what you're because initially it was, why was Afrocentricity International breaking away from Asante's Afrocentricity organization? Right. So he was saying that was, so when I started reading the book, I was like, I see how people could conclude that. I have my own critiques of the book that I think are in a different lane, headed in a similar direction with what even our self-promotional brother was desirous of
Who
being
is
critical
this
of.
guy? I mean, can you at least
Omawale Africa? He goes by
Oh.
Omawale Africa. So I just started jokingly calling him self-promo.
The one that said you look like Bugs Life. Remember he
Oh
said
yeah, that was good.
Oh, he
yeah,
said
we
something
gotta-
about you too, right?
Yeah,
right.
you call me a
everybody.
Bugs Life looking nigga. Hey, that
So
was
look-
real talk.
That's funny. I didn't even get a good joke. He just put me in a meme. The only one I saw is he put me in a meme and put like rainbows over me or something like that. Like I'm supporting the gay agenda. You know?
So
I mean, I beef with so many of these defenders of black manhood. I don't know which one.
So I wonder if was one of the lines he was upset about or feeling some type of way about men being mothers, or men can be mothers just as well as women can be mothers.
So again, we never got to anything specific to the book. He never said this is what Asante wrote and this is why we're saying what we're saying. So I don't know, and I don't, you know, and to be frank, you know, like once he went and did all that with me, you know, I just on social, I've shut myself off, so I don't even see dude anymore. So I don't know what he said since or how if he's given a more, you know, elevated review. I don't know.
But that's the point though. Like even the fallout, I guess that what he said about me and Diallo was more so when Diallo went to a line in Barudi's book, who says that once you are homosexual or effeminated, you won't be able to fight. And Diallo disagreed, in which all of us disagree with that and challenged it, and they blew it up into something else. Like that one point that he made. And so it's frustrating to hear that there's not even a page or a chapter or a section you can be like, this is where I disagree. So I'm still looking for it. I'm trying to figure out. Like,
you could look. I made one. Not okay. So I want to stop with dude. I don't want to. So I want to now take, for at least for me. I would like, you all obviously, you know, I have no control, but you know, I would like to. For me, I'm moving beyond dude. I don't want to make this about what dude thinks and what speculate about what this guy may or may not think. What I would like to do is just lay out what I thought of the book, and then there, you know, maybe some things that, you know, we could speculate as to what could be causing folks who have an issue with this a concern. And I think I brought this up already, but for instance, you know, all right, but let me do. So my issue with the book is that I think Asante is doing with Afrocentricity and African-centered thought, and some going back to Dr. John Henrik Clarke, which is why I asked that we put a pin in his name, who is not mentioned, who is conspicuously absent in this book. Asante references the whole panoply of African-centered luminaries, and Clarke is so obviously absent because they had to be, and obviously because they had a beef. And in part, what Clarke's critique of Asante was basically, you're trying to become a pop star using our radical traditions, and you're trying to become an academic, you know, celebrity with our traditions. And this book, more than anything I've ever read from Asante, has me in agreement with Clarke on that point. So I have always appreciated Asante, even going back to his pre-Molefi Asante work, even his Arthur Smith work in communication. I've appreciated that work. I've appreciated more than anything his point, going back to the beginning with Afrocentricity, that for African people, Kemet should play a role civilizationally that Rome and Greece play for Europeans. I've always appreciated that line, that argument, all of that. But from his references to Ibram Kendi and Ta-Nehisi Coates to, you know, to you know, it's so clear.
Isabella Wilkerson.
I mean, he's just saying, okay, this is it. I'm, you know, maybe I've missed some stuff. I haven't read everything he's produced, you know, but like I read this, I was like, wow. So all of your references to Cheikh Anta Diop, to Wes Chandler, to Karenga, to Dove,
Wayne Chandler.
I said Wes, Wayne Chandler, all of these African-centered luminaries, you don't say boo about Clark, and you frame these references in such a way that presents a very liberal, hey, we're all humans, we all come from Africa, and we can just, we got to see beyond race and get to I mean, it was. And then if you go even to the bibliography and look at all of the citations to Cheikh Diop, the absence of his book on federated states again rings out so clear, because what this book is not encouraging of is political organization and material redistribution. The book concludes with basically saying, if we can get past the symbolism and recognize Black women's power being at the bottom of this social, gendered, racial hierarchy, then we can move as a humanity into the future. And I was like, wow. So I get why the African-centered world and even his previous supporters would have a problem with this approach to that study. But to your initial point, I don't see much that you would have to speculate and read between the lines. The last thing I'll say is, because when he does make reference, at least for now, and then I'll stop for now. When he makes references, that is Asante and Dove, when they make references to the African-centered approach to understanding gender roles and sexuality, I understand how people could say, okay, now you're trying to fit yourself in with the LGBTQ argument. But I would like that personally, because I think that this is the right way that this is accurate. I appreciate that they're doing that. What I don't appreciate, and again, I'm thinking of I have to only reference, because I haven't read too much into this work, Greg Thomas's work on the subject. There's a different politics to making that basic same argument. Plus, Thomas does a lot more to explain and lay all that out. But there's a militancy to Thomas's work that is not in Asante's, and that is pretty clear to me. Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
I'm also I think Dove more so is also trying to move away from class. She has her critique
on
God.
Mark.
Yeah, I
what they say, I'll save that. But yeah, I'll save that.
Yeah, but honestly, like the book made me go back to this, and I was just on this. And then most of the time I went and find her critique of Marx, African-centered critique of Marx. It's in Portuguese, so I had to kind of like do some translation. But it's weak. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, y'all mad sophisticated, man. Y'all some sophisticated brothers. I didn't read the book. Only portions of the book I've read, like 20. The pages you sent me is all I read. And I figured out the hustle. See, I'm from the streets. When Bell Hooks died, she was worth over $10 million. And her passing left a vacuum, a hole in Black thought. And all I could think when I was reading through what you sent me was like, is he possessed by the ghost of Bell Hooks? Because this brother is trying to occupy a space that has been a very lucrative and profitable space that has been left, so you can't be that space. You can't go in that space with Dr. Clark in your pocket. So when I'm reading this, first thing I thought, to be honest, I'm like, what's really the point of this book? Why does this book exist? And then I hope that, because the first book that even told me, I had no concept that I was an African at some point in my life. There was a point in my life where I was just an American who happened to be Black. As a child, 12, 13 years old, I came across a book called The Afrocentric Idea. And that was the first like real grounding that, man, Black people are Africans across the world, the African diaspora. But I just said I didn't read the book. Why are you repeating? Like, you can't gotcha when I admit something. If I sit here and say I ain't got no pants on beneath the camera, and then you be like, you pants.
It's not a gotcha. It was just a critique. And you said, but you critique
it? I said I didn't read the book. I only read the excerpts of the book. The
critique is that you're commenting on it and haven't read.
Yeah, I'm commenting on what I read.
Based off the
excerpt. I'm just saying.
Okay, I said I'm commenting on what I read. I saw the cover of the book when you held it up. I can speak in depth about the weird ass cover they have on that book. That book is weird as hell on the cover. So I'm speaking on what I done seen. Look at that. That's what the look at that. That's horrible. Again, he needs to call my consulting agency. I need to have an agency. Everybody doing everything wrong except me. What I did read.
That's the T-shirt I want.
The elements that I did read. Now, if there's something in the book that is there that contradicts what I say, I'll come on this air and be like, oh, okay, he cleared it up. He got it together. But if you don't like what I'm saying about the book,
no, go ahead. But I think it's a legit criticism to say you ain't read it, you shouldn't say it, even if you're right.
I'm only critiquing what I read, and this concept of myoticity. I mean,
you don't like that
based on what I read.
Listen, I was looking for the book for a while because Jared was promoting the book, talking about Promo Wally. You was promoting the book. So I said, let me get this damn book. And I finally get the book. I read the introduction and I was about to text y'all and be like, yo, I don't know what the fuck this is. But
what is the point of this book?
But I didn't text, so I kept going and I was like, I still don't really, I don't know what the hell's going on.
You read the book. Okay, so you know.
If
you mad at me for not reading the book,
I'm just saying it's a legit criticism.
But if people mad at me for not reading the book, please tell me what I did say about the book, how it's incorrect or contradicted by what's in the book.
Okay, fair enough.
Just saying, I said the first thing I said is I didn't read it. Only thing was sending me all these pages last night. I got like 20 pages from the book.
It's still legit. And I still think methodologically, even if you're right, it's methodologically unsound. But my point is I'm going to say right now, it is methodologically unsound. You are right. Let me
tell you this.
But you are right. So let me go ahead. Let me just no. Let me go ahead. Let me finish what I got. Let me finish. Okay. You're right. But the line I wrote here in my notes is that this feels like the Afrocentric version of the woke imperium, and I love that article from that white man that Christopher, I think Mott is his name. I love that woke imperium article, and I think this is what that is. This is the purpose of the book, and I think you both identified the lane they're trying to get in. They're trying to take Afrocentricity more mainstream for the 21st century, which means you have to find a way, and I think they do find a way to maybe indirectly get to the point that we need to be more open to the LGBTQ community, that we need to advance our analysis of race, all of these things that are being, I think, legitimately and justifiably put on the table in today's struggle. Dove and Asante are attempting to interpret Afrocentric through Afrocentricity or Afrocentrically, but in a very liberal way, symbolic way. So I think in an insufficiently radical way. They're not arguing for, again, political organization. There are the absence of Clark, I think, defangs and dematerializes an approach to African-centered thought and history. The critiques of Marx, which aren't really critiques, they're just passing by inaccurate references to Marx and Lenin, just unfair statements that they make. And then I even looked at, I didn't read it, but I saw that one of the articles that cited from Dove that as a critique of Marx, where we're supposed to get a supposed more, extended version, is only 12 pages. So I'm saying there's no way there. I don't care how good a writer you are. I find it terribly difficult to believe you could give a sufficient critique of Marx in 12 pages. But for instance, they say here on page 136, surely the entire pantheon of Western scholars are not practicing racism, but some live within the confines of the race paradigm, and that in itself makes it difficult for most escape. Maybe they meant to escape. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Makes it difficult for most escape. There are notable examples of ideological and theoretical experimenters seeking to detach themselves from the worst aspects of Western culture. Race delivers strange and bizarre characters who parade across the stage of humanity, afflicted with the worst handicaps of a people whose narcissistic minds have entrapped them in their own images. Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin could not see Africa or Africans. Martin Heidegger toyed with the ideology of Nazis, hooked as he was with René Schwaller of De Lubitz, who was blind to the African origin, blah, 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 blah. So in other words, it's just a passing reference to say that Marx and Lenin didn't know anything about Africa, didn't include anything about Africa. That's, again, not to say that they were African-centered thinkers or that they understood or appreciated Africa, but it's just simply not true, is the point, is the point. So earlier in the book, again, it's just simply not true. So I think that's where I looked for the reference. No, it wasn't that one.
Look, they was even messing up the mythology. They said Adam created Eve, and I mean, you don't have to be a Bible scholar to look that the so-called God put Adam to sleep, took his rib, and created Eve. So when they were saying that, I was like, I don't know what they read.
Well, the other thing with Marx, the other thing with Marx, though, that I wanted to bring up to finish with was that they I think, and I'm happy to be checked on this, but they get the whole thing of critiquing Marx and the primitive accumulation of capital. They get that all wrong. Mm-hmm. They argue that Marx was demeaning and diminishing Africans by calling them primitive and referring to the conquering of Africa as primitive accumulation of capital. And I'm like, that's not what he meant at all. That's not what that meant. And even historically, in the European context, the word primitive has not always meant in this diminishing way. It literally means first. But what Marx is talking about is the not the primitive accumulation as if Africans are primitive, but that the first stage in the accumulation in the establishment of a capitalist economy is the initial capture of the raw materials and natural resources of African land and labor. So anyway, but really my point is that the disingenuous dismissal of Marx and Lenin with the praise for Kendi and Coates and the erasure of Clark all speak to Diallo's, even if methodologically unsound, conclusion that the book is trying to get into that lane to say there's a void. Now, they do mention that Audre Lorde had picked up a racist feminism, so that might be the biggest challenge to them getting to the bell hooks lane, but per se. But they are trying to get into a lane that is more mainstream, more open, certainly more safe in the academy, more financially lucrative, et cetera, and so forth. But is
so
empty.
I'm curious
curious. It's not going to work, though. It's not going to work.
I'm curious how you feel about Cedric Robertson's Marx's critique, because Nadav says that's where he helped her get to the point where she wanted to critique Marx. So I don't see any similarity.
I think first of all, Cedric Robinson's argument is way more is strong, but I think that he doesn't. If off the top of my head, I think Robinson didn't do enough to honor what Black people have actually done with Marxist Leninist ideas. So I get that we want to not say that Black people couldn't move, and couldn't radicalize without Marx. I get that. Nobody's arguing that. But to sort of diminish, as I think Robinson's argument ultimately does, this idea that Marx and Lenin have offered something powerfully valuable to Black people is a flaw. And I think that, as we talked about with anyway, I think that I'm not doing a good job right now, but I think there are some flaws in there that deserve a discussion, and at least they deserve more than a type by, you know what I'm saying, like a type by hit on Marx that we get here. But anyway.
So also one of the things that I didn't get to this yet in her critique of Marx, and I think I'm going to have more pleasure reading that than this. But she says she's going to present why Marx, possibly one of the most radical European thinkers, had a profound effect on the thinking of contemporary African activists such as W.E. Du Bois, Frantz Fanon, Walter Rodney, C.R. James. So supposedly in this critique, she's going to present why she believed that he had such a profound effect on them. So she did. So I'm not saying that she's going to do different than what the Black Marxist, I'm dropping his name, what he didn't do, but she did mention that he had an effect on these radical Black thinkers.
And I know, Ricky, that's why I like that we have these conversations publicly and that they're recorded, because my memory is trash. So if I can't, and my power of recall in the moment is not where it needs to be so that's why I would encourage people to go back, and I'll try to find and remember and put the link or whatever. But my really I would just say as a plug for the channel is if you just stay in tune with this show and this platform in general, these conversations come up all the time and will come up again in perpetuity. So and there's even Rodney, once anyway we're going to come, but so we'll come back to that and continue. Yeah. Anyway, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, and I know, that Josh is a fan of Robin, and I'm not dissing Robinson's work. I'm just saying I think it's not perfect, and I think that there are flaws in it, and I think that's all. And I think that anyway, but I haven't read Myers's latest, so I don't know. But it's not fresh. That's really my point. But really all I'm saying is it doesn't matter to me in this instance what sort of side people end up on. I just think it's more important that they have more honest and substantive arguments. So if she has one, if Asante has one, I think I would like to see it. But in an article that is 12 pages in a journal, that ain't going to be it. So I just don't care how good you are. You can't get rid of Marx, and never mind. And then what I'm also frustrated by when these things come up is that I don't feel like people give credit to what people suffered as a result of picking up Marx and Lenin and so on. In other words, yes, she may say Walter Rodney was wrong for picking up Marx, but the state blew up his car. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what does that say about what his analysis meant? You know what I mean? All the groups around the world that pick up Marx and Lenin and do really good things, like, and my guy George Jackson, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, I need more than 12 pages for you to tell me why George and Walter were wrong. Because that would be my issue. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop here. But that's the critique I want. Not is Marx good or bad.
Right.
But what has his impact been? Or what have Black people done with him that maybe give him undue credit and value? Maybe that should be the approach. I don't know. But this whole thing of, but go read Ibram Kendi. Nah, man.
That hurt. That and Cass, like I'm telling you, I was literally about to put the book down after that. I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm walking into.
Like when the crypto dudes are telling us to read, they're telling me don't read Marx, but I should read Max Kaiser. You know what I'm saying? Nah, man.
Yo.
I mean, it's like saying that you can't really reject Marx. We're trying to reject Marx is like rejecting Adam Smith. It's not that. I don't think that Black people, Plymouth Rock fell on us. The institutions of African people were systematically dismantled and destroyed. Our intellectual history was burned to the ground. And so when we reemerged, when the system reinstituted our humanity and redefined us as human beings, and we started to fight back against the system, we basically emerged from the system with the tools of the system. whether it was muskets and cannons and Molotov cocktails and Kalashnikovs, and then the ideologies and philosophies and critiques of the system. Also, whether it was Adam Smith or Karl Marx, we kind of employ, but it has a uniquely African character. When I look at Black Marxists, I never see them move, maneuver, or even engage in struggle the same way as white Marxists do. Just like if you look at Islam in Saudi Arabia versus Islam in Senegal, there's two different animals. So I think we can look at it from that perspective. And I'm anti-religion across the board, but I can't, even though I oppose religion, formal religion, I can acknowledge that it's not the same, and it manifests even if it has the same source. So I think we do ourselves a disservice by discounting or trying to dismiss Marx and simply saying it's bad or good. It's just, well, there's two things. Marx offered a critique and analysis and a historical dissection, but he also offered specific solutions to the issues. And to be honest, I don't even think Marx was that radical, because he was just basically looking at the timeline saying this is how things will naturally evolve. He was wrong on a lot of things, but he was just like, well, if A, then B, then C, then D. If you go back to his history of capital and markets and his conclusions about how the material reality drives society and culture, he was kind of more like Darwin, just observing and recording, as opposed to, really saying this must be or this can't be. So Marx leaves the Marxists open to kind of really decide what they want to do with it, to say a thing. But I ran into a lot of Black people in our sphere that are hostile to Marxists and Marxist analysis, and I don't really understand why.
Well, I think few have read and as I read him closely, and fewer have studied him in an organized fashion and in a meaningful way, which is evident in reading this, that if you describe his work on primitive capital or even his discussion of Africa in this way, it says, right. It does, but as they say here on page 3, and since I did read, I want to at least, give them, honor my effort at least, and theirs as well. They say here, our work must be seen as being in the tradition of Ibram Kendi's award-winning Stamped from the Beginning, the definitive history of racist ideas in America, which established the American empire as being the repository of racist policies and attitudes from the beginning of the nation. Amazing that his book did that until then, we hadn't done that. Not even Howard Zinn's The People's History had done that. Like we hadn't reached, but Kendi did that. But they say, however, while we applaud the comprehensive nature of Kendi's research, we are inclined in our own work to concentrate on how patriarchy is linked to hierarchy and how both are generators of racial ranking. Furthermore, race as a biological illusion remains responsible for racism and the creation of labels such as Negro, half-caste, Indian, Aryan, Nordic, etc., so on, and mulatto. At one point, I thought it was in that paragraph, they say they go beyond Kendi to do, and I forgot what they were saying was their next level. I think by challenging the very concept of race was the actually, they say on the previous page, Kendi is right to see racist not merely as a descriptive, but also as a pejorative. Our objective is to go even further and to proclaim that only an end to the language of race itself can solve the problem of racism. So they're definitely going to have a problem with a Marxist analysis, because racism for them has nothing to do with the material conditions. It has to do with the language, apparently. But anyway, now where they might have run into a foul with Africans not interested in opening, including those of varying gender or sexual identities, roles, etc. they talk a little bit about, now this actually, I appreciate what they're doing here, but I would appreciate it more if they had put it in a more radical political context. But they basically talk about how, for instance, talk about research that focuses on male and female social roles and the way they may interchange, unlike European gender roles. So one of the things that I like is that they're actually saying that in one way they're saying, I guess homophobia would be Eurocentric. Would be one way I think you could interpret what they said there. Geechee, what did you put in the chat here? Let's see.
That was a statement that Nadav made in her critique of Marx that I was about to read or brought up.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
go ahead,
just
read it. Share,
so yeah.
So it if you can, yeah.
I don't know if I can share it.
No, you can't share that from there,
yeah.
But I don't know where you copied this from.
I copied it from my notes on my email. But anyway,
just read it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so she says the argument that culture in opposition to class is a more comprehensive force to unite a people is rooted in the knowledge that historically, cultural unity has allowed Europeans to develop, manage, and control capitalism. And in addition, it allowed African people in particular to fight, resist, and survive the devastation of the domination of the European world. Thus, it can be argued that the motivating force for social change is, in reality, a cultural dialectic rather than a class dialectic as Marx proposed.
So from this quote here, she says the argument that culture in opposition to class is a more cohesive force to unite a people is rooted in the knowledge that historically cultural unity has allowed Europeans to develop, manage, and control capitalism. That in itself ignores Marx's and everybody's clear observable reality that there's a class problem in Europe. If Europeans had collectively, culturally controlled capitalism, then why would there have been poverty, classes? Why would where Marx was insufficient in understanding Africa was because his focus was initially in the countries in which he lived and worked in Europe, where there were class inequality and hostilities, among others. That he was struggling against. So that doesn't make any sense.
There's a movie called Fear of a Black Hat, and there's an excerpt from that movie called I'm Only Human. If you would just simply go to Google or YouTube and put in Fear of a Black Hat, I'm only human, I'm just a human being, that'll pretty much sum up this text from what I've gleaned from it so far.
So another part in terms of this continue what I was just reading from, where they talk about in whose context is this? Referencing Diume from 1987, but I'm not sure what. Oh, the Igbo people. And saying that in the Igbo language, oke is male and ni, forgive me, is female. But in referring to man, he is nuoke and woman is nuani. The word for child is nwa, and oke and ni are used to distinguish a child's gender. However, no confirmation is made to define whether the person is a she or he. The Igbo language has genderless words normalizing the idea that either sex may carry out the same roles. Thus, gender and biological sex are separated. Accepted roles for women and men, if necessary, will be filled by the opposite sex carrying out the same roles. Such roles are exemplified in male daughters, female husbands, gender and sex in African society by Diume in 1987. So my point in that is that what I like that they bring up the African and African-centered approach to understanding sex and gender, but it's in the context of liberalizing that argument for presentation to ultimately a white affluent audience who would support this and promote it into levels of popularity. But for those who would be critical of inclusion of, I'm guessing they could read into that and similar, references and say, queer agenda, get them. But anyway. Now, what's interesting, Big Teal, is that every semester I have my students rewatch this Asante Kwame Ture debate. And I have to say that overwhelmingly every semester, Asante is chosen as the not overwhelming, but usually seen as the majority winner by my students. Now, the reason I think that is that Asante's argument, I think, I don't mean to be, this is going to sound worse, maybe I intended, or maybe not, but I think his argument is less sophisticated and more simple and more easily understood and less threatening. And it's easier to score points, particularly when you're dealing with an uninformed audience, on things like, we don't need the white man for this, that, and the third. Our people have done this, and this, your approach is white. And Toure's attempt to explain how it's not Eurocentric to appreciate Marx's analysis, especially to get to the conclusions of what a United States of Africa under scientific socialism, to get to all of that is a little bit harder, even for someone like Kwame Ture, to penetrate, again, youthful and maybe underinformed audiences. But because I always hear him as a clear winner, I always thought that was the debate that would end the discussion forever. But it's clearly not the case. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I was a little bit shocked too. But that's what I have to rest on that. I just think that Ture, even in his genius, is still a little bit more sophisticated in his analysis and maybe his delivery. I don't know. I can't answer it. Like I said, every time I watch it, I walk away feeling like more clearly Ture won every time. But anyway. All right, fellas, anything else? That's all I had, really. I don't really, there's not much else, the book ends with the Zulu declaration, a long declaration saying that, which includes, it seems like a very open and about humankind, and it's not about race and color, and I don't know. I get why there would be at least, some sort of response like, whoa, where's the pro-black in this? Like, where's the, I don't know. I just don't feel like it just doesn't read, but, and then it definitely, the last thing they say ultimately is, well, I'll just read the last paragraph. Just says very quickly, indeed, as Africologists, and one of my comrades wanted to point out that Africology was used by Foucault, Tata Foucault, before Asante. But indeed, as Africologists, we establish the marker that we are human, and that is why we insist on the equality of difference and never on the ranking of humanity because of difference. Only in our particular needs, because of capability, must we prepare for uniqueness. Otherwise, as Africans understood at the beginning of history, we are all traveling the same road from birth to death. And then you go through, and they got everybody is referenced except Dr. Clark. Not even an index. I went to the index. They got Noam Chomsky.
Yeah, I was supposed to say they got Kamal Boy up in there.
They got Kamal's boy in there, but no Clark.
Listen. Like I said before, I think Avi Chomsky much harder than her dad. So I'm rocking with Avi.
Oh, okay. You know what? I don't know the work. So I have to catch up. Okay. Fellas, what you got coming up? What's the latest? And links to your platforms are in the show description. If people aren't already familiar, please do support them as well. But what's coming up? I think you
Monday. If I can get my car working on the Bro Diallo radio broadcast, I'm going to be talking about it's my election palooza show. So, you know, no vote, no vussy, election erections, and all that shit. So it's
Man,
gonna
we
be
didn't even. I didn't even. Man, I haven't even. I haven't even. I'm not even. I'm so not paying attention. I got to admit.
You ain't voting. No vote, no vussy.
I don't. I'm
Vote
not saying
blue,
I'm not
no matter who.
voting. I think I'm going to be made to go do something. But I don't. Yeah, it's not going to be for it's not going to be for these fools. So it's going to be, you know, from the perspective of you know, the Roland Martins of the world. I will be wasting our vote. So.
Well, I'm going to be doing the election show. You know, I wanted to do this talk on, you know, we killed Kobe and how celebrity worships harm celebrities. But I think I have to back off of that because folks is mad sensitive. But I do. If you tune into the Bro Diallo show, we're going to talk about the election and what black people, and we're going to talk about, you know, my mantra for black people in U.S. politics, how we need to engage U.S. politics, being cold, distant, and calculating, and that we vote for resources, harm reduction, and subversion, which can be done within the political arena of U.S. electoral politics, and I explain how to do that and why we should do it.
So who you? Okay, are you voting for? Who you voting for? And Ricky
said she was flying the plane.
You didn't know, Ricky? You didn't know you was piloting that helicopter?
Well, no, it's deeper than that. See, that's the thing. When I say we killed Kobe is kind of like an embodiment of celebrity and fame, and where we put them on a pedestal to be flying chartered helicopters over midday traffic, that type of shit, where, you know, they get up to, where they go into spaces thinking that, you know. So I'm just saying, if you really love Michael Jackson and Prince and their overdoses and how they failed to get the help that they needed, even Prince, and how we kind of celebrate and lift. I think it was, what was it? I think it was South Park had once done an episode
you
about.
Better not start talking shit about Prince.
I'm not talking. I'm trying to help prevent. I mean, this goes all the way back to Charlie Parker. You know, this goes all the way back to Charlie Parker and celebrities of our parents and grandparents and great grandparents, and how when the way we approach the very concept of celebrity, we can do it in a way where we can benefit from these talented individuals, where they can bring so much to our lives. We can start engaging the very notion of celebrities or our gifted members of our community in such a way that is life affirming, to help sustain them and bring them back down to earth and re-engage them with the larger community and re-engage them with the Black liberation struggle as a whole. So if we stop pushing them out, so, you know, because a lot of people talking about celebrities aren't leaders, as if denying the fact that they are leaders will somehow stop or unseat them for leadership. I think we should acknowledge the leadership roles that they play, and we should take control over that impact, because right now, as it's been demonstrated, other people have control. I say our leaders are their servants, our leaders are their assets. So I just use that we kill Kobe thing as a clickbait, you know, but I kind of dissect what I really mean by that if we engage celebrity differently, we'll stop losing all these talented young individuals, stop losing them in terms of them dying, and stop losing them in terms of their wealth and talent and fame being utilized to advance agendas that aren't Black or that aren't African or Pan-African. That's what I meant by we kill Kobe. So
see, I agree with that. I appreciate that. See,
I'm a poet. You try to show it. I'm poetic.
Thank you, constructive consultant. I appreciate Diallo's critiques as well.
Thank you.
What else did I miss over here? But Geechee, what up? What you got coming? What's up? What you know?
So the think tank, we have a couple French speaking Africans in our collective, and so we're watching Blood and Tears, a documentary, French decolonialism or decolonization. I'm sorry. We're watching that, and then again we're still planning the viewing and talk back of Justice Serve. Like I said, I definitely want you on one of the episodes. Jared and I got to convince Diallo to watch it. Diallo don't watch TV. He's too smart to watch TV. So I'm gonna try to.
And what's this that we talk that you want us to talk about?
I love TV. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, you don't watch our kind of TV. I'm joking.
No, I like garbage television.
Yeah. No, but we're doing a viewing and talk back on Justice Serve. So collectively,
what is that?
The movie that the thing you was just talking about on Netflix.
The series, the South African joint.
Yeah, we're gonna do a viewing and talk back of that.
Oh,
so we're gonna have a couple guest speakers on there. So we definitely want y'all to come on and add y'all expertise. We're gonna have y'all on separate broadcasts.
Now I'm only showing up if Diallo's there. I'm not showing up without Diallo. I'm a package deal at this point.
If I have to watch it, I watch it, but I'm fully fine with critiquing it without ever watching it. I'll just look at the previews and read the little excerpt from Netflix, and then I'll tell you everything you need to know about it. You know,
in fact, I'm about to tell everybody.
I'm on the edge.
I'm not doing anything without Diallo. If you want JB, you're gonna have to get Diallo. So yeah, so don't invite me unless he's gonna be on.
Right.
Why do I gotta miss the fun?
Yeah, true. I need to get me some glasses. We can just, fill in for each other, impersonate one another. We look enough alike.
We look exactly alike.
My beard connects a little better, but beyond that,
Diallo at the Bitcoin event next year gonna be a little bit rough. That's gonna be rough.
If I get the glasses, I can pass. If I put a little bit more bass in my voice, get the glasses, I can fill in for you.
There it is. Let's do it. So in fact, so speaking of which, just a heads up, on November 21st, 25th, and 28th, I Mix What I Like will be not live. So just a heads up. So unless I could get these two to pre-record something, you all gonna get something else on that Friday. But just a heads up that's coming on this platform, this show. Other things coming, some new announcements. We got a special announcement. Me and Kalanji got something coming in the new year. Just stay tuned on the platform. Click, just you know what to do. Everybody knows what to do. Fellas,
and when we get
go ahead.
When we get off the air, I'm gonna have to talk to Gigi. He know what he did. I didn't want to beef on screen. You know what you did, and you're gonna have to answer for that, brother. Just so you know, I need a sidebar.
You talking about your contest?
Yes. When I specifically asked you, talk about brotherhood. You talking that you need to take that RBG flag off off your back.
I was supposed to battle, but he was scared. But since he ain't here,
back and watch that battle. That was so entertaining. But real talk, you think you got a brotherhood going, and then people show their true colors. But I don't want to get Dr. Ball involved in this street shit. We got to.
I'm tree lined. Yeah, I'm tree lined streets. Don't.
Scholars.
Okay,
that
fair enough.
Cool, man.
All right, everybody. If we didn't get to it, continue. Make sure to
put it in the comments
and help BPM get it. And everybody, let Diallo know.
It's wrong, bro.
Pierre almost got beat up on live, didn't he?
Who?
Pierre. He almost got beat up by another comedian.
No, if you all paid attention, what Pierre did. No. I don't know if you caught this. What Pierre and that brother did, that was a scripted WWE. And he came back later, and Pierre said his point was, he said, I wanted to demonstrate to black people how y'all just gravitate towards the conflict. So he pointed out that the numbers for that show went through the roof, as opposed to all the other episodes he's done with even more famous comedians. So I thought it was actually pretty interesting what he did there, even if, I was like, that's interesting. And to be for real, I even thought of the 5 Heartbeats And I even thought of approaching the two of you with something like that. You know, if you remember with the 5 Heartbeats where they took the brothers fighting and they used that as part of a stage, you know, performance and had them in the shiny suits, and then they fought and tore out the suits and you know, so like, but the point, you know, but that was really what Pierre was doing. It was like they faked an argument either as clickbait or to make a point or both or whatever, you know. So that's what that was. But
so I got baited with a clip.
We all got baited. Everybody got it. Anyway. All right, fellas. Thanks a lot. Everybody have a good weekend. Always, as always, like Fred Hampton used to say, we peace if you're willing to fight for it. Go ahead, Diallo. Go ahead, man.
No, I'm just saying peace. Good night.
All right, peace, everybody. Catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like and all throughout the BPM platform. Thanks,
I
everybody.
mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.